We're back on site in CrossFit Glasgow, this time to mobilise shoulders. Shoulders tend to be the most common injury that I see within my clinic, and we've developed some very effective mobility techniques to relieve and prevent shoulder impingement. So I'm going to use Danny, who's a relative newcomer to CrossFit, as my demonstration model for this. The first exercise we're going to get into is releasing our pec minor. Our pec minor and major are located at the front of the shoulder. Now you can see on Danny, he's came in with a fairly typical posture that I've found a lot of our newbies starting with, and this is a very protracted shoulder girdle. If we ask Danny to move down to the floor, you'll see this a little more clearly. He just lies on his back. You can now see with Danny on the floor that his pecs are actually that tight that even though he's lying on his back, his shoulders are still held a considerable distance off the floor. This is indicative of pec minor tightness. I've discussed in the attached article to this the relevance of pec minor tightness, and now we'll move on and show you. To mobilise your pec minor, you're going to need a lacrosse ball. If I just give that to Danny, I'll describe how you get into position to mobilise it. Now, place the lacrosse ball midway along your collarbone, come down about an inch, and use the corner of the rig, the corner of a door frame, corner of a wall, to just prop your body weight against the ball. Okay, from here, I'm going to ask Danny to hollow out his core, and as he's already done, put your hand just behind your back, opening out your shoulder blade. Okay, from there, he's going to use his knees to bend and straighten, which will also lengthen out the tissue with the ball there. This I'd advise you to do for about 2 minutes. The next muscle group that we're going to mobilise also uses a lacrosse ball to do this. That's the levator scapula insertion, and where your rhomboids meet the scapula from the spine. In order for Danny to find this, he's going to take his opposite arm over his shoulder with the ball, and he runs his finger the ball along the spine of the scapula until it just dips off the edge, just before the scapula starts to go downwards. That's him roughly in the correct place. From here, we're going to move him down onto the ground, and he's going to apply body weight pressure through this point. Now that we've got Danny in position, I'm going to ask him to keep even weight through both shoulders and start to raise his right arm overhead. Ideally, I want him to go the whole way, but if he starts to feel any impingements at the shoulder or any nipping, he draws the line there. Quite a common side effect from this trigger point is a headache and referral into the arm. So Danny's going to move the arm back and forth 10 times overhead. Once he's done 10 slow arm movements overhead, he can change sides. So by lifting his hips and starting to move the arm overhead, Danny can maximise the pressure that he's able to put through the ball while mobilising the upper shoulder. For the next exercise, we're going to mobilise the levator scapula and rotator cuff group. It would be unfair to say we're mobilising one and not the other, as they both start to blend in and overlap at the back of the shoulder. Both of these areas get a considerable amount of use with CrossFit, and as they're located underneath the arm, you can directly see how this is going to limit overhead movement of the shoulder. Okay, we're going to use a foam roller to do this. I'm going to ask Danny to get down onto his side. Now that we have Danny on the floor, you'll notice the roller's in just underneath his armpit and his right arm's elevated overhead. His left knee's open to the ceiling, and he's going to use this to lift his hips, which allows him to apply a downward pressure through his lats and cuff. Now he can roll back and forth on this, or forwards and backwards. It just depends where he feels tight. I'd advise about 2 minutes of mobility on this, and then change to the other side. Okay, last and certainly not least, we're going to spend a bit of time on our thoracic spine. This is an area that's extremely stiff in most people. Most of us that work as a desk jockey during the days where we're stuck in that protracted kyphotic position, we never seem to get out of it when we come into the gym. So what I'm seeing all the time is people trying to get weights overhead, but they're actually stuck in this position. Now if I just demonstrate quickly my full range of movement while stuck in a kyphotic position, you'll see that I only get to about 150, 160 degrees. Now without me moving my shoulders any further, if I just decrease this kyphosis or increase my extension of the thoracic spine, you'll see an extra 10 degrees immediately out of my shoulders. Now you can see the benefit that would bring to any of our CrossFit athletes if they've got that mobility. They're not going to be straining their shoulder into these positions to get the bar overhead.